The preliminary toxicology report has come in for the 3 Kansas City Chiefs fans that were found frozen in their friend's backyard, and we now know that they had a lot of stuff in their system. In fact, they had 3 times the lethal dosage of stuff in their system. Now, this doesn't really come as a surprise to us. We all thought that they would have something in their system. But now this is when the reality kicks in. The reality that whoever supplied this stuff could be facing some very serious charges. They could be going away for some very serious time, if not for the rest of their lives. Okay? So I know we have this mystery over whether Jordan knew that the 3 men were in his backyard or not. We have that mystery. But the reality is, that mystery doesn't even matter. If Jordan is the one that supplied this stuff, he could be facing some very, very serious charges. Regardless if he knew that they were in the backyard, regardless if he knew they were dead or not, if Jordan supplied this stuff, or Jordan tampered with this stuff and mixed this stuff around, like people say he did, then we're looking at a whole nother ball game here. But in order to build a really solid case against Jordan, you're going to need evidence. You're going to need, a thorough investigation. And it doesn't look like we got a thorough investigation into this case. We know that law enforcement left evidence behind at Jordan's home. Evidence that the families had to get through a mutual friend through Jordan. So I have no confidence that law enforcement and investigators have conducted a thorough enough investigation to really have, to really just build a solid case against Jordan, regardless if he's the one that supplied this stuff or not. And to be fair, Jordan may have nothing to do with this. Maybe one of the 3 men who died is the one that had the stuff and gave it out to the friends. I know we're all looking at Jordan. Some people are looking at the 5th friend. But the 3 men who died, they could be the ones that bought the stuff or brought the stuff to Jordan's house, for all we know. So let's just be fair. But the reality is setting in now. Now that we got some answers, now that some questions have been answered, we got it out of the way. We know that there was stuff in these guys' system. Now we got to know where it came from. Will law enforcement be able to determine where it came from? That's the question. So there is a possibility here that Jordan could be facing murder charges. Yes. If you think that sounds extreme, go look into it. People are getting charged for that all the time. People who supply certain things. I can't really go into detail and use certain words, but people out here supplying certain stuff are getting slapped with those type of charges because the stuff they're supplying is killing people. So Jordan could be facing those type of charges. And it might not even be Jordan. It could be the 5th friend. It could be someone who we don't even know of yet involved in this case. But if law enforcement is able to figure out, which I don't see why they wouldn't, they got all these guys' phones. I don't know if they got Jordan's phone. I don't know if they looked through Jordan's phone. But I don't know what's going on behind the scenes as far as that goes. But there's a huge possibility that if law enforcement does their job right, that they find who supplied this stuff. And when they do, I think because of the public pressure that is being put on them right now, I think that person is going to get charged. So will we see charges in this case? I don't know right now. But for now, I want to roll this news clip really quickly. Before I do so, though, I need a huge favor. I need you to hit that thumbs up button. Let's get this video to 3,000 likes. I need you to drop comments below. Do you think there's going to be charges in this case or not? Also, ring the notification bell so you can be notified of all of my next uploads. I'm going to roll this news clip really quickly, and then I'll be right back with more thoughts.
I'm kind of losing my mind on this one, Alex. You know, I fully expected we were going to hear something about drugs in the toxicology report. That was not a surprise to me. But at the same time, I didn't expect to hear from the victim's stepmom last night and hear that there were pill bottles inside a backpack that the police did not even bother to take. What are you hearing on the scene at this point?
Look, I can tell you that this was unexpected, not just for us, but also for the family members. Think about this. I've been knocking on doors, including the medical examiner's office, asking them, look, are you guys going to expedite this toxicology report? And basically, they told me point blank, no, this case is no different than anyone else that comes across our desk. But something must have happened. Something must have changed. Maybe it was that meeting with the Platte County prosecutor, because now all of a sudden we are seeing an expedition of this case. All of a sudden, preliminary toxicology reports are coming in to the families, and they now know at least a portion of the story, which is inside of the bloodstream of those three men was we don't know the actual specifics, the levels that might have been in that bloodstream. Certainly it was enough to go beyond, well beyond the lethal dosage. But again, the actual toxicology reports are not in the hands of the families at this point. It's in the hands of the detectives, and they have not turned that over yet. But at least the Kansas City Police Department decided that we need to give these folks some answers at least, so that way they can get some closure. Right now, preliminary results, obviously we're asking for that toxicology report so we can get those details and we can report the official cause of death. But that still could take several more weeks.
Yeah, you would think that the families, I mean, it's one thing to get a phone call from the detective, right, to tell you here's what we can, you know, finally reveal. It's another thing to get your hand on the autopsies, and you and your lawyer can go over them and decide what the next step is, like maybe wrongful death lawsuits, you know, like that's something entirely possible. I'm curious, Alex, I'm not going to suggest for a minute that you have been able to dig into the digital files of all of these people, the party guests, Jordan Willis, etc. That's likely something that is tightly held by the police. But is that a mine that should be looked at this point? The fact that maybe there was a whole bunch of chit-chat between all the guys before they came over for the visit to Jordan Willis's house pertaining to what they might be bringing with them for fun, party favors.
I think that's a great question. I think that if this does move to criminal prosecution, certainly phone lines and text messages, Facebook messages, social media chats, that's all going to be closely examined. Obviously, we heard yesterday from the cousin of Clayton, Caleb, who said that this was just a normal activity that happens when surrounded by Jordan, that he is known to manufacture and distribute drugs to his friends for recreational purposes, was that line of thought. But certainly I think the families, when speaking to them, they're not against criminal prosecution, but only if it actually is deemed to be criminal behavior in terms of maybe passing out these drugs, which ultimately led to their deaths. They're not saying, they're not pushing for that. Yesterday, it was mostly about just, look, we want answers. We're hoping to get those answers. And if it leads to criminal prosecution, great. But I think, honestly, that meeting with the Platte County prosecutor is probably what expedited this toxicology report, because now, all of a sudden, the Kansas City Police Department, the medical examiners are seeing real action being taken by these victims' families, and they're hustling it along.
Yeah, I mean, I smell a wrongful death suit, probably 3 wrongful death suits at this point from the 3 different families. Listen, I can't imagine what they're going through, because it's bad enough to lose your loved one suddenly, and then it is brutal to lose your loved one and not have answers. And I can't even for a moment fathom what it's like to do that in the national spotlight, and then to get this call and this to be in the national spotlight. Are any family members sort of, you know, talking about the effects of this on them? I mean, I just would imagine that they're grieving privately, but has anyone said anything?
You know, what's interesting is I think this brings a sense of relief. Yesterday, when speaking to them, they said, we just want to know that people are looking into this, that this is an actual investigation, and that if we don't have the answers, but at least someone's looking for the answers. And so when answers did come today to their doorstep, to their phones, I think that was a relief. Oh my gosh, now we sort of are getting closer to the answers that we've all looked for. That being said, I don't think, at least the family members that I spoke to, it was much of a surprise. I think just about everyone had the idea that drugs were the main contributor here, if it's not the only contributor, it's at least one of them. And so I don't think that there is necessarily a sense of surprise, but I do think that there is a sense of relief knowing that it's coming to a close.
Alice Capriello, as usual, great job out there. Thank you for this. Really appreciate it.
Jackets, backpacks, pill bottles, all left behind. I mean, come on. I've seen people making excuses for the fact that law enforcement left like one of the guy's coats behind. One of the coats that were still in the house, oddly enough. I've seen people making excuses for that. I don't think there is any excuse for that. I think those items should have been collected by investigators, but they weren't. But now, here we have it. Bottles? Pill bottles? Come on. And you want me to believe that law enforcement were really doing their jobs? You want me to believe that investigators did their jobs? There's pill bottles left behind, and it looks like these guys, died on something? Any little bit of faith I had is now gone. And I didn't have much. It was a mustard seed of faith, and it's now gone. It is gone. And, if you ask me, it looks like law enforcement and investigators are playing catch up. That's what we're watching right now. We're watching them play catch up in real time. They were never going to pay attention to this case or give it a second thought. But because the news is talking about it and YouTubers and social media is talking about it, because of the pressure, because the story has gotten big, now they feel like, we got to get on top of it. So now they're answering a few questions. Now they rushed out a preliminary toxicology report, hoping that they could silence the family. But in reality, they're playing catch up. What they're doing now is stuff they should have already done. They're playing catch up. And it may be too late. Because like I said, there's a real reality that Jordan or the fifth friend or some stranger unknown person could be facing some serious charges because all of this. 3 men are dead. They could be charged with the deaths of these 3 men. But in order to do that, you need a solid case. And I don't know if they're going to have a solid case if they didn't conduct a thorough investigation in the first place. So there's a big chance here that whoever supplied this stuff will walk away free. No consequences because law enforcement dropped the ball. But right now we're watching them play catch up. And when we're in this period where this case should be dying down, it's just heating up because law enforcement is just now starting to get the balls rolling, okay? They're just now starting to get the balls rolling. So there's no telling what we find out and what we hear in the days to come, but I assume there's going to be more. For now, though, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. While you're down there, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. If you would like to donate to the channel, you can do so via CashApp. I'll have my CashApp in the pinned comment. You could also donate via Super Thanks or for free. You could help the channel by sharing this video, liking the video, subscribing, ringing the notification bell, and all of that good stuff. But with that being said, I'll talk to you all soon in the next one.